We need to protect Elon at all costs, though.
Yeah.
I think if can you imagine the state of, let's say all the events that have happened in the last 6 months. Imagine we didn't have a platform that was helping us, the citizen journalists, the people that are just watching the content, like help us discern what is right from wrong. You see, it doesn't matter if Kamala Harris talking about, no tax on tips. They're like, yep, here's the receipts, here's the legislation you passed saying you want to get IRS across your tips. Without the free speech, how easy is that to squash? How easy is that?
Well, it was during COVID. That's exactly
they rewrote,
what...
all the other social platforms rewrote the narrative about her being in charge of the border. I don't know if you guys saw that.
The border czar.
Oh, I didn't
She
know
was,
that.
she was called the border czar, and all of a sudden the media came out and said, no, we never called her that. And that was quite interesting. Yeah. And yet all over X, all these comments, border czar.
I think point to note with Elon Musk as well. When he first took over X, there were people who were critical and said, he's controlled opposition, he's just taking over. Oh, look, here's a photograph of him going to a Halloween event where he wore costume as supposedly as Satan or the devil or something to do with Satanism. But it's like, how many people go to Halloween dressed as a devil? It's a common thing that's been in Halloween for, ever since people have dressed up for Halloween. But no one gave him a chance to actually just, let's give him a chance and see what he does. And if you look at his record and what he's done, not his words, his actions are, he has let people back onto X who were banned, who were very controversial, who really, if you look at some of the things I say, you could argue, why is this person really allowed to speak? That is if you disagree with them, of course. But he didn't care. He let them on there and he let them speak. And he doesn't put the algorithm on them, which also censors them from being seen by people. And I think that if you look at that and you look at all the other things he's done with the platform, really what he's doing, you tie that in with Tesla, you tie that in with SpaceX. He wants to make the X phone. Now, if you look at that, what he's really moving towards is creating an operating system for a computer. So he wants to create a Linux-based operating system that's based off, it's going to be called X, based off Linux, And if you look at why would he be doing that, why would he be focused so much on that? It's because his goal was to create X as a technological platform for everything. Think Weyland-Yutani in the movie Aliens, like major corporation that owns literally everything, makes everything that you use and own. And from a good point of view, though, that's what he's trying to do. Because if you look at what Microsoft is currently trying to do, if the newest versions of Microsoft, unless you are a tech nerd and you know how to get around it, they want to require you to have a Microsoft account to even log into your computer. Now, where that's moving to is they want to put your entire computer into the cloud. That means you use their hardware. That means you store all your data on their system. And basically it becomes like Netflix, but for a computer. And you ask, why would they want to do that? Because they can lock you out of it any time that they want. They can go through all of your data and see what's there anytime they want. Elon Musk doesn't want to do that. He wants to create a phone that gives the person freedom. He wants to create a operating system for computers that gives person freedom. And if he does all that, ties it in with the Tesla car, he's got robots coming out at the end of the year, Android robots. This is going to move us forward into a future where you have one of the good guys, one of the old school nerds who believes in what the internet and what creation of software and everything was about back in the day, which was for the greater good, helping the community, helping out your mates. That's what it really was about. He is one of those guys. And that is a rare thing now, someone in his position, because if you look at Facebook, you look at Google, you look at Microsoft and even Apple now, all of those companies are not they moved so heavily away from that ideology that it's now warped.
Completely warped.
It's completely warped.
Elon's, I believe he's one of the good guys, and he's all we've got, really. And I've seen changes in Mark Zuckerberg. He's seeing what Elon's doing. And now he's turning conservative as well. And it's just like...
Bro, it looks like he's going to steal your girlfriend. Like he's done a full glow up and everything. He doesn't look like an AI.
He's training jiu-jitsu and MMA, and he's hanging around the right people.
I don't know about Mark Zuckerberg.
or he's worried
still in two minds about Mark Zuckerberg.
He might be worried that Trump's going to win an election.
That's
saying the right
to
thing.
Ben's point, I don't know if you guys remember, if you go back right to the beginning when Elon took over well, now what is now X, and he allowed what was called the Twitter files, and apparently we had Australian Twitter files, which not many people do know about. And you had Matt Taibbi with Freedom of Information looking at what was going on between the American government and Twitter at the time, suppressing the amount of information all through COVID, deplatforming people, particularly people who were actually vaccine injured, so that you wouldn't have this hesitancy. So to put that up as a whole Twitter file, it was like a Senate hearing, or it was amazing to watch and listen. So, for him to have done that was quite an amazing achievement. Imagine what we could do if we had the Twitter files, but the Facebook files or the Meta files, what we discover between Mark Zuckerberg and, the Department of Home Affairs.
Yeah, but Elon, the way I liken it to? I liken it to Elon being like, you've got the Great Wall of China. Each tower is like a different, you've got X, you've got Meta, you've got Meta, Twitter, YouTube, Google, all of them. And one of these towers has basically let the Mongols in. That was X, that was Twitter. So now the line's broken, and now they have to retreat. And the problem is, what's happened is, because they've done that, they're gaining the benefit of having a free market, whereas the other ones are now crashing and burning and getting rid of employees. I think Elon Musk is probably one of the most misunderstood people from the freedom community sense. I think a lot of people, as you rightly pointed out, Ben, he's controlled opposition, he's doing the chips in your brain, he's in line with the EV stuff. If you start looking at Elon from the lens of a mad scientist rather than an establishment guy, it'll make a lot more sense. Because I've been following this guy for years before he got X, before he got a lot of these things. He didn't just wake up one day and get X.
No, he didn't.
No.
I saw this radicalization, and just a bit of, these are some of the commentary that I've seen from him before. A lot of it before he actually took on X. He's actually pro-guns. In fact, he truly believes in the Second Amendment. He's South African, got that from his dad. So anyone that understands South Africa, like myself, I was there recently and I could understand the mentality. It explains a lot of his actions. He literally made a company called The Boring Company, and he made a flamethrower. I mean, this is a bloke that loves to do that sort of thing. I don't see many leftists doing that kind of thing. He's against the LGBT agenda, as we saw recently.
With his son.
With his son, who he says, I lost my son to the woke mind virus. In terms of the AI, he said a number of times a few years ago, what we may need is a Second Amendment approach where everyone's got their own AI. This is how his brain is thinking. And on top of that, how is it that the establishment, hates him so much? Because he got X and he got this social platform. They only started attacking him because he broke the line of GARM, who controls social media advertising. And when he put $40 billion down, what did they do? They started attacking free speech. They started pulling ad dollars. He started to say F you. You see the meme culture, it's been percolating into his brain. The way the establishment takes people and controls them is they find someone, let me give you an example, you may have heard of this one. They find someone that maybe invents the water engine. And they try to screw in the screws in different ways, with money, with blackmail material, or they try to kill them, basically. Now, Elon, they can't simply kill him, and we know there have been assassination attempts on him. They can't simply buy him. They can't simply censor him and defame him because he's got a huge mic. He is one of the number one threats in the world right now, and he is not going along with it, which is very much a South African attribute. He does not want to go with it.
That's why so we need to protect him at all costs. I really mean that because, you take him out of the equation, they install someone else as CEO, the shareholders, the left, far left shareholders install a new CEO, and then we're back to square one where everyone's getting, the UK, the censorship we touched on earlier. Can you imagine what they would be doing right now if they had control over X as well?
Yeah, funny you should say that, because sorry guys, I love this panel. Can I just say I love this panel? Well, I don't know what we've done to get this chemical reaction right, but I love it. So on this particular, we were talking about this took the cake in terms of the comment. So in the interview he did with Trump, he said, we tested the system with 8 million concurrent listeners earlier today. There appears to be a massive DDoS attack DDoS attack. I have no idea about this. Working on shutting down this thing. This commenter wrote, only Elon Musk can open a podcast with a cyber attack, win, and then continue on business as usual, and just feel like, anyways, as I was saying,
He's an incredible individual.
Yeah, I think
DDoS.
That's the thing. It's that one of the things he did say in the beginning, though, he didn't know if it was a DDoS or it was so many people trying to join to watch it.
Right.
It was a little bit of, there is patterns in the traffic you can see, and you can see some that are genuine, some that are not. But when you look at the fact that it sort of broke the internet because of all the people trying to watch it, it was pretty good. But one point to note about Elon, that you said he was South African, if you actually read his book and have a look at his book and what he went through as a kid, I believe he went to boarding school. He went to camps where, it's with Boer kids. They're tough. And he used to get beaten up. He used to get bullied and have to fight back. And he's quite a remarkable man when you actually look at his life. And it allows you to understand him a bit better. This is a kid who was smart, who had to stand up for himself, was bullied, and was in a very tough environment that is South Africa, and Africa in general. It was a very tough place. And this is the guy who's come out and then gotten into tech, and he's trying to push this benefit for the world. Because if you look at, as you said, about the brain chips, I've had people say, oh, no, he wants to put in brain chips. He's going to, it's to control us and all this stuff. No. What people do not understand is human augmentation is, again, like we were talking about before, it's something that is inevitable. It's something that is going to happen whether you want it to or not. And we're going to see chips in brains. We're going to see people with artificial eyes. We're going to see robotic arms. We're going to see robotic legs. People who get in a car accident, their spine is gone. They put a complete robotic spine into where their spine used to be. And people are afraid of it. And for obvious reasons. I mean, it's something that can be used for great bad or great good. But if you look at what Elon Musk is doing, he's taking that chip to help people walk again. People who have had neurological diseases where they're completely destroyed and can't function in society. He's doing this chip as a means to try and help them. And I think that that's a really remarkable thing, because if you look at someone who's a paraplegic or a quadriplegic, if you said we can put a chip in your brain and make you walk again, every single one of them will say yes.
Dementia. How about dementia?
Dementia,
or chronic pain.
Can you imagine that?
And this is the thing, you've hit the nail on the head. The problem with the freedom movement in its entirety is there's a lot of these words of controlled opposition. And I think we've got to start trusting people based on what they're doing, not what they're wearing, and stop acting throughout fear, because everything he has done has shown an incredible fortitude. He's an incredible man. Where would we be without X right now? And the chip, you are completely right, can help so many in a medical system. Like if you've got so many paralysed people, so many Alzheimer's patients, dementia patients, particularly post, a bit controversial, certain medical procedures, you do need something to help these people. We're humans. We need to help each other.
And I think he's extremely smart. I don't think anybody can deny that, even his biggest haters. But he's picked look at all of the businesses he has. He's got SpaceX, he's got
PayPal in the previously, right?
Yeah, he sold out of PayPal. That was one of his first big breaks, I guess. But look at so all of the most important things to human civilization, he's doing it. Transportation, he's got the cars, right? Energy, he's got the green energy. And he recently on that Trump podcast, he spoke about his views on that. He's like, it's not as radical as what they're making out. And
we just can't demonize coal and gas.
We need that
because we're relying on it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then he's got interplanetary plans and to keep the species alive, because if we do get hit by if we split our species in two and one's on Mars and one's on, someone has to start doing that. You can't just wake up overnight.
Maybe one's with a Marxist government and one's not.
You can't just wake up overnight and terraform Mars. It just doesn't work that way. But he's all of the things that and AI, of course, and social media. He's got all of the frontiers that a battle, whether Marxist government or authoritarian or whatever, whichever way you want to look at it, whatever this sort of direction that the evil people are pushing in, he's making sure he has the cutting edge of each of them, right? So these brain chips that we're talking about, I would rather a brain chip that's made by Elon Musk than a brain chip that's made by
Soros.
Yeah,
Gates. Yeah.
So
it's like a vehicle.
Just like the Starlink. If you look at Starlink, I remember hearing over a decade ago, there's a billionaire who wants to make a network for the internet that's satellites all around the earth, so everyone in the world can get access to the internet anywhere for free. And I thought, what a great idea that was. And it was actually Elon Musk, and he did it. And if you look at what he wants to do with the X phone, he wants to have Starlink on the phone. And if you look at the implications of that, that means you would be able to get a mobile phone number through X, through Starlink, that is not controlled by any ISP in your country, not controlled by any telco or any government. So if you were to have a situation like in Brazil where the government's massively cracking down with censorship, if you had an X phone, you would completely bypass all that through Starlink. This is what this guy is doing. He's taking social media, making it so it's protected, then tying that in with internet access so it's protected on a device that's protected. Like he's making it so you are never going to be cut off from being able to speak or hear information. So what he is doing is actually remarkable for mankind, and it's rare that we get a person who's actually so involved with trying to advance mankind, not just trying to make a dollar or anything like that. He's trying to advance mankind, as you said, put man on Mars, man on the moon. But really, he ultimately wants to get into space mining as well, which is incredibly intelligent. You find an asteroid that's made out of gold, well, I mean, obviously the gold price is going to change.
No, but most useful metal in the world, most best conductor. If there's no supply, problem. But a couple of things about this, and those are great points. I didn't think this was going to turn into an Elon Musk love fest. But it wasn't what I was planning. It wasn't in the agenda. But look, Graham Hood, he uses Starlink. Our own Australian government has botched the internet in Australia. Yeah. He found a way to give the whole of Africa access to the internet just with these satellites. The idea that our own editor in South Australia, he uses Starlink as well to do his job because our government, once again, botched the internet. He was the one that sued the e-safety commissar. He said she's the commissar when she was trying to censor the bishop stabbing, around the world. He was the one that sued him. It wasn't Clive. It wasn't anyone else. God bless Clive. He funds many other lawsuits, but not this one. But this was a former Twitter employee that was trying to interfere in Australia's democracy and the world's democracy. And the last thing I'll say, he's talking about the risk of population collapse. Whereas the globalists are saying, no, you shouldn't have more kids. He's actually saying, no, we need more kids. We're not going to get to 9 billion. We've got to, that's huge. That's
massive. I mean, you look at Korea. I think Korea's got the lowest, South Korea, they've got the lowest birth rate in the world. And it's very, very sad because if you think about, say, 2060 or 2080, you might not have South Koreans anymore, or they're so small that there's such a minority. No one ever encounters them or deals with them.
I think the birth rate.
Doesn't Japan have a visa for breeding? A breeding visa?
No, I saw that and I thought this has to be a stitch up. Sure enough, it was, but I thought whoever did that as a stitch up, that's a classic. That's when you see people who make up misinformation, but they've obviously done it for the lols.
How does that work? I'm just anyway, I won't go any further. There's probably kids listening.
No, but the birth rate's plummeting in a lot of the countries. Yeah. So I mean, he's
China,
he's spot on. Yeah, Singapore, Australia.
One place that's not going down though is sub-Saharan Africa, 4.1 birth rate. Niger, that's just had those big problems with France, and they've kicked the French out, and it's basically almost breeding to a civil war. They have a birth rate of 7. I think it's 7.1. So this is just a really, if you compare that to, say, I think South Korea's, I think from memory, is something like 0.63 or something really low. So if you look at that level of birth rate, remember back to the 80s and 90s, there was famines and massive problems in Africa. Then all this money got given to them from NGOs, and now they have a birth rate that's skyrocketed. So this is what you have to sort of look at, is what are they doing right that we can look at in terms of fixing the birth rate in the rest of the world? Because they're obviously doing something right. If they're having 4.1 birth rate in sub-Saharan Africa, in countries that aren't as well off as the Western world, what are they doing right that's working? Because they are having a lot of children.
Because talking